today to do the movie review to go with the book, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I reviewed the books last week. This will be the third video to go with it. So like I said, it's The Fellowship of the Ring movie that I'm going to be reviewing here. There will be a few spoilers. I don't think I can really avoid too many of them. I am trying to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but I don't think I can avoid all of them. I really liked the book when I read it. As I'd mentioned in my book reviews, I had put off reading the books for a long time because I was told they were very dense, they were very time-consuming, and that it was very hard to read J.R.R. Tolkien's writing because he writes like a linguist and not an author. I thoroughly enjoyed the books, but I definitely started with the movies. They came out when I was in my preteens, and I just adored them. They were everything I loved in a movie. There was action, there was fantasy, there were sword fights, there were battles, there were like these really accessible characters. And I just have very fond memories of this movie because of this. They do the same portrayal that the book has. It's this epic adventure with these somewhat sheltered characters and experienced characters, and they just create this group that moves forward to defeat the greater evil in their time. And I find, having read the book now, that the movie follows the book really well. I had been told that by a number of people, but I was really surprised at how close it was and how well they did with it. Having finished my summary here, I will now move on to my likes and dislikes. I did keep this the same as what I tend to do for my book reviews, 3 likes, 3 dislikes, and I'll just talk a bit about them here. I'm gonna start with my 3 likes. The first is that they kept a lot of the really important book parts in it. So a lot of the characters were the same, a lot of the scenes were the same, which was awesome. I have a friend who is a Lord of the Rings buff, and he just finds it really amazing that they so effectively translated this book to a movie. And he said they kept so many of the details. And having read the book now and watched the movie again, I totally agree with him. They did a great job. What they did here was they really just trimmed the fat and got rid of the things that didn't effectively and efficiently move the story forward. My second like is the cast. They were amazing. They were really well cast. Their appearance really embodied what the characters were described as in the book. And the actors were fantastic. They just really filled the roles perfectly and just became like iconic in their representation of these characters. And I love the way they filled the roles and the way they portrayed the characters from the book. They did a fantastic job. And my third like is they cut out the minute details in terms of the background descriptions. So like nature, the forests, the ruins, the towns. And I really like that they did it. They cut out the descriptions in terms of dialogue. They don't really talk about it, but because it's now a movie, they're just able to effectively show everything. So you can see the decay of the ruins. You can see the darkness of the forest. You can see the otherworldliness of the Night Riders. It was just, they did such a good job with it, bringing the world to life. It's just amazing. Moving on to my 3 dislikes now. My first dislike is that the relationship between Gimli and Legolas, at least in this first movie, is more like a friendly rivalry than the friendship that they form in the book. In the book, they already kind of talk about how everybody's surprised they're friends and all these things, and it's definitely just more of a friendly rivalry in the movie. I wouldn't really call them friends yet, and I was a little disappointed because that was something I enjoyed in the book, was just that there is this friendship and this staunch loyalty between all these characters, including the Gimli-Legolas friendship. It's just a little sad to see that that wasn't explored a little bit more in this first movie. My second dislike was like the lack that they didn't let Merry and Pippin kind of talk and show their loyalty to Frodo in the same way they do in the book. In the book, they talk about it in such a way that, like, it's so eloquent, the way they're like, oh no man, like, we trust you, we know you, like, you would not be going on a mission unless it was a mission for good, of course we'll help you, there's no talking us out of it. And then the movie, it's kind of like, whoops, we're going now because we eavesdropped on a council meeting. For how elegantly it was written in the book for them to be included in this fellowship, it was a little sad to see that was just thrown out basically for a laugh. Not a huge thing, but just enough that it was like a little pet peeve of mine with the movie. My third dislike, again, is pretty minor. It's that the time frame didn't translate really well from the book to the movie. And I do get it, even though these are some of the longest movies that were in theater. It definitely only feels like it takes months for the story to occur, whereas in the book, it takes years. Like, nothing really happens for 9 years at the beginning of the book. And that really feels like it happens over the course of a couple weeks in the movie. And I do get it. They have to translate it from the book to the silver screen, and that means that your timeline can't be as long. I found that it was really good at increasing the atmosphere and really playing up the lack of technology in their world. It really, like I said, just really set that like high fantasy atmosphere so well in the book. It was a little sad that we didn't get the same feeling in the movie. I mean, overall, they still did a pretty good job with it. It's just that shorter timeline really made it feel like you didn't get the same immersion in the world, which is unfortunate. Having finished my likes and dislikes now, I will move forward to the characters. All right, so with the characters, I'm not really going to talk too specifically about anybody. I do like the way they portrayed Frodo and that stayed the same. That he was kind of like, he inherited this adventure because he was bequeathed this ring by Bilbo when Bilbo left the Shire. And even though the timeline was a little more scrunched in the movie, I do appreciate that they kept that part and that it didn't feel forced. It still had that natural feeling of Bilbo being so hesitant to give it up and Frodo being so hesitant to accept it, knowing what he knows now about the ring, given what Gandalf told him. With the movie, there are a few side characters that were in the first book that aren't in the movie, and it makes sense. As far as the movie goes, these characters, while they show up here, I don't believe they show up later in the book, although I don't know for sure because I haven't read the second book yet. It's on my TBR, and because of that, I understand why they made that decision. It's easier to just include a character, like switch the role of a character who appears throughout the series rather than having a single throwaway character. It'll connect you to the characters that are there a little bit better, and it'll just cement that character's role in the overarching story a little bit more. I don't mind that they did it. I have to mention that they did do that to a few characters. Tom Bombadil is one. He doesn't appear anywhere. And there's a member of the Elven Guard when they get to Rivendell who participated in getting Frodo to Rivendell so he could be healed. And in the movie, it's Liv Tyler's character of Arwen who's doing it. I did like that they kept the loyalty, although it's not expressed the same way. They don't have these eloquent speeches when they're talking to each other about, oh no, you're like a brother to me, or this, you're that. I can't let you do this alone. It's there, and they're able to kind of more effectively say it with actions in the movie, just because you can watch the characters interacting. You're not just trying to read the dialogue to picture the scene. You're able to see them moving around and what they're doing in the space. And so, like I said, that lets them more effectively show the actions that show their loyalty rather than just the words. So they do keep it, even if they've kind of changed the mode of communication for it. One other thing kind of about the characters is there are a few characters that are a little bit more of a caricatured version of themselves. The one I would say there is Pippin. In the book, he's humorous, he's fun, he's lighthearted, but he's not stupid. And although he doesn't come off as being stupid in the movies, it's just a little unfortunate that they felt like they had to increase the humor aspect of his personality to make him, I don't know if it was to make him more likable or just to appeal to a greater audience. It was a little sad to see the differences between the characters, especially when Pippin from the book he was so well written that there were just certain things where I was like, oh, well, I guess we threw that away in favor of comedy. While it's not huge and it doesn't change his personality too much, it was just a little unfortunate that that's what happened. And I wish you'd been able to see the more serious side or the more loyal side, I guess, of Pippin's character in the movie, because it was just, like I said, very well written in the book. And that's all I really have to say about the characters. They did the same thing as they did with the plot. The really important stuff is still there. They just trimmed the fat to make it a reasonable length and not a 6-hour epic, although that would have been fantastic. And so I really don't have much to say about this. It's a fantastic movie unto itself. I grew up just watching the movie without having read the book, so I really got to experience the movie just as a movie, and I loved it. And there's just, like I said, there's so many things I loved about it. It came out when I was a preteen, so it had all of the action I wanted. It had all these attractive actors. It had this high fantasy that I just loved reading, and I couldn't believe that I was seeing it on the big screen. It was done so well. And all of those things are still true today. Because of that, I still really enjoyed the movie when I watched it again. And as far as the movie itself goes, I can easily give this a 4 out of 5. Easily. And that's what I'm gonna do. The Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, is a 4 out of 5 stars for me. It was just fantastic for the reasons I listed before. Maybe I'm letting nostalgia color it a little bit, but honestly, it still stands up to this day. With that part finished, I will move on to my book to movie adaptation. And honestly, it's a great adaptation. I've mentioned a few times now, they really just trimmed the fat from the story to really make it this long, but just very enjoyable movie that was very, very true to the book it was based on, and I adore that. I adore that they took a book series that was so well loved and made a movie series that is so well loved. And as far as adaptations go, this is easily one of the best I've ever seen. They kept all of the major characters. They, like I said, they only trimmed fat where they needed to, and all of the important plot points and all the important character flaws were still there, and that helped me enjoy the movie so much more after I had read the book, knowing that it was so true to the book. It was a good experience. It was a great experience, and I can't get over how well it stood up after I read the book and after so many years since I watched it. I'll give you my rating for the book to movie adaptation portion of this, and the book to movie adaptation I would say is a 4.5 out of 5 with this. There are a few things they trimmed out that I think they could have easily explored very quickly or built into the story a little bit. But that being said, the things that weren't added, you don't really miss, because even though I really enjoyed them, they weren't super important to the movie. Overall, they just did a really good job. They kept everything as true as they could have and still made a reasonable length movie. Again, the book to movie adaptation score here is 4.5 out of 5 stars. I can't imagine that anybody who's read this book hasn't watched the movie yet, but if you haven't, like, get on it. It is totally worth it. I really, really recommend this movie. I think you'll have a really good time, especially if you like the high fantasy genre. And that's all I really have to say. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.